Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Well, you know what? We're going to have a great show as soon as I pick it up. We're having some producer technical difficulties and all kinds of things going on here in the studio right now. But you know what, my friends? You know what? That's how real-time radio, real-time media operates. But you know what? We have the one and only Nabu in the studio as the producer today. Nabu, how art thou doing, sir?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me participate in this wonderful program.
My brother, listen, look, I am the host of the show and you came in with that voice, man. Come on, dude.
I try my best.
You're good.
I had practice. Our show was earlier today.
Yeah. And folks, if you don't know, that is one of the great shows here in the studio. You know what? Tell us a little bit about your show while I pull all this stuff up.
Sure. So Generation Radio every Thursday from noon to 2. And today we talked to a gentleman who's collecting basically a lot of Sudanese pop music from their
Sudanese.
Yeah. And he basically is archiving their culture. So Ostentino Records, I'll have the podcast up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/GenerationRadio. And, you know, we at Generation Radio are such big fans of Politics Done Right. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you kindly. We have some great guests in the house today, and we are going to do what we do best, and that is to make sure that politics is done how again? We're going to make sure that politics is done right.
Right, exactly.
We're going to make sure politics is done right. But before we get to the show, we have somebody in the house here, and she has a very important message to give. You know, folks, there's the Judge Kavanaugh that is making an attempt to become the 9th Supreme Court Justice. And that is something that needs mitigating, and she has all the scoop on that. For those of you on Facebook Live, please remember what you do. What we ask you to do is to share on your wall, share on your page, tweet it, go ahead and Tumblr it, go ahead and snapshot it, and everything else, because that is the way we get our message out. Remember that is the way we do it. But anyhow, in the house we have Maida Asofsky. And sorry, you know, I have to kind of flip between pronunciations when I'm talking. Okay, so grab that mic and tell us a little bit about this activity, this not conference, but what is it that you're having on this?
Well, I call it an air-conditioned rally. Technically, a rally should be out of doors, but it's August and it's Houston. And it will be in early September in Houston, which is about the same as August in Houston.
Yes.
So we're having, meaning Americans United for Separation of Church and State,
yes,
are having a rally to increase support to defeat the president's nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. Understand?
Why is that so important? I mean, I thought you'd love that guy.
Why would I love that guy?
I don't know. You tell me.
All right. Americans United for Separation of Church and State stands for the continuing separation and safeguard of religion from interference by the government, and from interference by religion.
I kind of like that.
Yes, you don't want anybody from the government telling you how to worship. You don't want anybody from the church telling the government how to run. Nor do you want our tax dollars going to support churches or church schools. You want the separation to remain absolute and inviolate. One of the things that presents problems, just as an example, is
Mhm.
what we call charter schools,
Right.
which are very often very good, but very often church supported.
Right.
And if they're church supported, what that means is you have public money going to support schools that are teaching religion in the
Right.
schools. We don't want that. We want our public schools to get the money for our children's
Well,
education.
it siphons money from from again the public school.
Absolutely. So that and it's clear that the Trump administration and the Republican Party in general would like, in the name of educational choice,
Right.
to establish and support with public money charter schools, vouchers, and other kinds of religious support for public education. And the Americans United for Separation of Church and State are against that. This judge has gone on record as supporting charter schools, and we don't want another judge on the Supreme Court who supports charter schools. We don't want another judge on the court who might interfere with a woman's reproductive choices. We don't want someone on the court who might support provisions that are anti-union. We don't want somebody on the court who is against equal rights for LGBTQ people. So we're having a rally at the Montrose Center at 7 o'clock on September 6th, and a whole bunch of organizations that are opposed to this nomination are coming together, and we're going to have speakers that show our audience how to oppose this very important nomination and how to get the court, the president, to nominate someone who's better qualified.
Now, let me ask you, I have to ask you, are you doing this in concert with other groups? So you're doing this in concert nationally? Okay.
Well, there are other events happening across the country, but this is an event that's happening here in Houston. Among the other groups that we've gotten support from are the local AFL-CIO, Planned Parenthood, Equality Texas, Mi Familia Vota.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And they're very, very interested in our issues.
That is also
and
a great
we're
group
interested
to work
in
with.
their
Yes,
issues.
Absolutely.
They're wonderful to work with. Yes, you're right. So the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, all kinds of. Now, these are all issues that are outside the purview of Americans United, but they are interested as well in defeating the Kavanaugh nomination.
Of course. So why don't you tell us again before we get started here on the program? Why don't you tell us again? And folks are going to get started with the program on voting, Latino voting shortly, but we had to give this community service announcement because that is what we do here at Community Radio. Go ahead and tell us a little bit more again.
All right. The event will take place at the Montrose Center at 7 o'clock on September 6th. So put that in your calendar and come and join us.
Maida, we need to know where that center is.
That's a good point. I'm embarrassed.
But actually, you shouldn't be. But folks, the reason I said that, mostly everybody here in Houston knows where that center is. So what we try to do, however, is for those of you who want to attend and have never heard of the Montrose Center, we want to at least give you a little bit of direction as far as where that is. So where is that?
401 Brannard Street.
Excellent, folks. And Nabu, we have great folk around here. Nabu was getting ready to have your back, right, Nabu?
I had it.
You had, yeah. Nabu had your back. That is how we work here at
77006, so it's just down the street from us.
Right.
Absolutely. So look, is there something else quickly that you'd like to say before we get on to the program?
Can I say thank you?
You can. Oh, sure, you can say thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to come and do this. I really appreciate it.
Well,
it's a pleasure meeting you.
It is my honor to meet you as well. I mean, anybody that is doing what's necessary to move this country forward, you're on my team. You're on our team. You are on our. I said my team. I meant our team, right, Nabu? What team is it again, man?
That's right. Community Radio.
Community Radio. It is
Pacifica.
Our team, Pacifica Network. Okay, folks. So thank you so kindly, and safe travels. But folks. We are going to have a great show for you today. And as usual, you know what I've started doing? Forgetting my pad at home. Not iPad, Google Pad, okay? Not the Google Pad, but, Samsung, all that good stuff. But anyhow, folks, we are going to have a great program for you today. So remember, if you're just joining us, we need you to go ahead and share the program like cuando, right now. Share the program on Facebook, share the program on Twitter, Tumblr, and all the other places that we share. Look, title of the show today, if progressives vote, what happens? They win. It requires complete Latino engagement. So what, folks? You got to vote. You got to go out there and vote. Look, Texas State House District 15 Democratic candidate Lorena Perez McGill and political activist Jesse Ybanez discuss why Latinos do not vote in their comparable numbers and how that will change in 2018. And what I'm expecting from these two great accomplished guests is for you to help tell us what we're going to do going forward to make sure that here, at least in Harris County, and in your case, I think your district covers more than Harris County, how we're going to get these people to get out there and vote. But we're not going to talk about that yet. What we're going to say is the election is just over 2 months away. The passion in the country is with progressives. The question is whether they will perform commensurate with the passion they've been displaying since the election of the country's first unapologetic, racist, xenophobic, misogynist, homophobic, sexist president. And yes, I said it. The candidate can't say things like that. I can. All right? I can. We give the candidates leeway for having to, well, anyhow, continuing. A very important component of that progressive space is the Latino vote. Will the vote make its presence felt? In the studio today is Texas State House District 15 Democratic candidate Lorena Perez McGill and political activist Jesse Ybanez. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. I'm doing good.
You're doing good. How's Lorena? We were concerned about you for a while.
Too. Yeah, no, I'm like everywhere, all over the place, all over the map.
Well, that is good, right?
It is awesome.
It is awesome. Okay,
yes.
Good. Anyway, Lorena Perez McGill is a dynamic lawyer, professor, wife, and mother with decades of experience bringing people together to help those who need help the most. She believes it is time to stop fighting in Austin and start fixing the actual day-to-day problems facing Texans. She believes that our democracy serves citizens best when voters have a choice at the polls and checks and balances in place at the Capitol. Lorena wants to advocate for District 15 residents and make our state a better place for whom? For all Texans, by focusing on real business and infrastructure challenges, improving opportunities in school, and working with immigrant communities on common sense reforms. Lorena holds a Master of Laws from Georgetown University Law Center in Washington, D.C., and a JD equivalent from Pontificia Universidad, Catolica, Madre, y Maestra in Santiago, República Dominicana. You actually put Dominican Republic, but come on, you can't start half the sentence in Spanish and finish it in English now. Come on.
Correct.
All right. Anyhow, she is currently an adjunct professor at the University of Houston Law Center and has previously been on faculty at Georgetown University Law Center. And then, of course, we have my good buddy, my good running political buddy here. Jesse Ybanez is retired. But is he? He is a political activist who is not only busy with his granddaughters, but finds the time to do a whole lot of work. He's a member of the State Democratic Executive Committee, known as the SDEC, Senate District 7 section leader, a precinct chair, and election judge. And if that is not enough, he assists the Citizens Workshop. Is there anything politically that supposedly retired man isn't doing? Is there anything you ain't doing?
No.
Okay, well, you know what, though? We need you, though, so okay. You keep doing what you're doing.
That's
Anyhow,
right.
Yeah, you got to do what you're doing. Anyhow, we will have some answers and marching orders today. But before I get to the program, I want to remind all of our listeners, and Nabu, do you know how to do the back and forth with me now that we don't have our buddy here with us?
Let's try it.
Let's try it, man. Let's try it. Before I get to the program, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig
at 2 p.m.
At 2 p.m.
At 2 p.m. You see, this isn't my normal producer, but we're gonna work on it. We're gonna work it. We have Open Journal with Dwayne Bradley and crew on Mondays at 6 p.m. And of course, there is Jazz Latino Afro Rock Van Latin Jazz at its very best, hosted by
Juan Flores.
The one and only Juan Flores, Tuesdays at 12 noon. And of
that
course,
one I knew.
Well, you better know this next one that I advertise every single show. There is, of course, Asian Radio, which is, and you take it, brother.
Thursdays, noon to 2.
Yeah, but you got to tell us something. I normally read a little something, but you got to tell. I can't say it since you're here.
Playing the best in world music meets dance music every Thursday.
Every Thursday.
From noon to 2.
And
Thank you.
We have Really But Not Really, a hip-hop R&B show on Thursdays at 10 p.m. But check out check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to the politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is a listener-supported public community radio station, so please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by whom?
The corporatocracy.
You got it, brother. You got it. Anyhow,
tongue twister.
It's a tongue twister, the corporatocracy. What are your thoughts? Let us talk, folks. This is also a call-in show. Give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. To my wonderful guests, thank you so kindly for being here, Lorena Perez McGill, and of course, the one and only Jesse Ybanez. How are you guys doing today? Ladies
Very
first.
well.
Huh?
Very well. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And thank you to Jesse for thinking of me to invite me.
Well, you know, I think it is very important that we do things like this. And Jesse, kind of out of the Facebook picture, we need to come a little closer. I don't think we bite or anything like that. But, you know, we want to make sure that you're out there. But folks, look, one of the problems that we find is that Texas is really, let me ask you something. Texas is really, people always talk about Texas being a red state or Texas being purple state and that sort of a thing. The reality is, when you look at the values that people are looking for, what people want in life, Texas ain't no red state. Texas ain't no blue state. Would you guys agree?
I agree. It's a state that doesn't vote.
It's a state that doesn't vote. And why is it that you think we don't vote? You're as somebody that's running, and I want to point this one to you because you are running. And your expectation is that people are going to come out and people are going to vote. Why is it that you have such a hard time getting the people who would normally vote for you to vote for you?
Well, in the case of my district, the district where I live, District 15, it is because we have not had any choices in a while. And the only choices are during the primaries, because for 12 years, we've only had Republicans running for this position. And if you go back before 2006, it's been even longer than that. It's been almost 30 years since only Republicans have been running for most positions in that county.
And why is that?
I don't know. I just got there about 3 years ago, and I asked myself that question, and then I said, well, and then why not? And here I am running.
Okay, so I tell you what, you just brought up something that I probably should have started. Tell me a little bit about yourself, because for you to have lived in the county for 3 years and then decide, well, you know what, something needs to be done here, I am going to run. What got you into doing that?
It was actually a series of things. The first one being that I fell in love with the Woodlands. The minute that my family and I moved to the Woodlands, we immediately fell in love with our neighbors and the people and the community and the schools. It was everything. It's a wonderful community. South Montgomery County is just wonderful for families. And it was love at first sight. My family and I really, really liked it. But then I started seeing that there were certain things that were kind of not right.
One of those are?
One of them being, we moved in summer of 2015, and we went, what was the election? I forgot, but there was some local election, and we saw that there was only one party in South Montgomery County, and that was the Republican Party. And I said, well, it kind of sounds weird that there's only one party. But that was not the only thing that made me run. It was just a series of things, starting with the floods. Tax Day flood, Memorial Day flood, and I was not happy because thankfully we did not flood, but we almost did. And some of our neighbors in the back of my neighborhood and the neighborhood adjacent to us flooded as well. And I started attending some of the neighborhood meetings, and I started to notice that at some levels, the areas were being addressed like with a silo mentality. And I said, well, I kind of don't like that.
Right.
And then just moving on to other things, I said, well, maybe we need a little bit more variety, and maybe we need another standpoint. Why not? Maybe we've been looking at stuff from at things, at challenges, at issues within our community from only one point of view, and maybe we need to add another point of view.
Voila, and that speaks well, right? And folks, this is something that reflects, because we have a national audience, and your story, which is a local story to the Woodlands, actually expands to what we have throughout the country. In fact, over the last 10 years, we've lost over 1,000 Democratic progressive people in Congress, because a lot of folks didn't step up and say, you know what, we need, like you just spoke about, that alternate viewpoint, that other point of view. Look, for folks that listen to this progressive show, you know what I always say. One of the good things of having both sides of a story, or however many sides of a story, is that each side forces the other side to strengthen, to ensure that the things that they support's there. Well, one of the big problems that we have now, so we know why you decided to run. You did what we are hoping people all over, or what we are hoping people all over the country are going to do, and that is leave no particular election uncontested. So that is the first part of the equation, ensuring that every single position is contested so that we get the best out. But after that occurs, Jesse, what has to happen is you have to finally bring those voters out. Now, we have a 911 problem. Todos nosotros aquí somos latinos. Y somos la gente que casi nunca votan. We are here sitting down with three different kinds of Latinos here. All right. And the problem is, across the board, is that this group has a tendency not to vote. My question to you is, why first? And after why, we're going to go, I want to go quite a bit deeper than that.
Yo digo que mucha gente dice que el voto latino es como la chupacabra. Todos hablan de la chupacabra,
claro,
pero nadie la ve.
Claro.
Si es que tenemos que hacer algo, necesitamos que nos escuchen. Y yo no digo que nos escuchen aquí en el condado de Harris. Y yo no digo que nos escuchen en el estado de Texas. Y yo no digo que los escuchen en los Estados Unidos. Yo digo que todo el mundo los tiene que escuchar.
Claro que sí.
Y la única manera que los van a escuchar es que voten. Necesito que todos vayan a las urnas y voten. Es la única manera que los van a escuchar, y es lo que necesitamos todos que hacer.
You know, Jesse, kind of going on top of what you're saying, that what we have to do is make sure that for the world to listen for us, for all to listen to us, that we have to go out there and vote. Si queremos que todos nos escuchan, tenemos que ir allá afuera a votar. Now, Lorena, you are a Latina voting, running in a district. Tell me a little bit about your district.
Well, my district is, as I told you, it's District 15 goes in Montgomery County, south of the West Fork of the San Jacinto River. That's actually the east and north kind of delimitation. And then to the west, there's a road. It's 2978, California, Egypt road. And then to the south, it is just the whole length of Spring Creek. So that's a big
county. Yeah?
It's not that big.
No, you don't think
it's
that's
a
big?
small part of the county geographically.
Right.
However, in terms of demographics, it is kind of big.
Right.
It's got the biggest concentration of population of Montgomery County. In terms of racially, it is 70% plus white, and then it's got a about 15% Latino, and then in the single digits or Black, and for other, as it is put. But it is diverse, nonetheless. It is, and this is in terms of the voting population. Right. Let
me ask you. There are two kinds of voting population, right? There's the registered voters, and then there are the people who vote. Are you talking about the registered voters?
The registered voters. Correct. Yeah. So it's about 130,000, more or less, people according to the calculations from the last census. And of those 130,000, give or take, we see that only about 40,000 vote. 40 to 60,000 depending on the year, because then again there are people who only vote once every 4 years,
right? Exactly.
Or once every 4 years, and so the voting population is kind of small, and but then if you go to diversity in terms of cultural diversity and racial diversity, we've got it all. We are a community where there's big companies, multinational companies. So I have been to not only synagogues, but in the Woodlands, in Bender's Landing, but I've also been to, within my my district, to temples and to mosques, etc. So it is very diverse in terms of food also. Oh my gosh, yeah, the best Vietnamese food is not far from where I live, actually, and they're big supporters of me, by the way. Not because I spent almost all my money there.
All your money, just, okay.
But yeah, it is a wonderful, thriving community, and it is wonderful, and it is beautiful in part because of the people who live there. But then again, about 12 to 15% of the people in that district are newbies.
They just got there.
We just got
there.
Well,
not only that, and that also means that you don't particularly know what their positions are.
Our position, you mean? Because I'm part of them.
Okay.
Remember, I moved
that's right.
there in 2015.
Right.
I was part of what my 7-year-old son likes calling the Exxon Mobil migration. And Exxon Mobil moved there with about 10,000 employees, and most of those 10,000 employees settled in Montgomery County.
Right.
And most of them are actually within the district where I'm running for. So the estimate is somewhere between 12 and 15% of the voting population in my district are newbies. Have moved in the last 3 years, just about.
Now, when you described the population, you said 70% white. Then you said then others are. You can group everybody else in the other 30%. I a lot of people look at that and say, oh, that must have been a really gerrymandered district to really get that sort of a demographic in this area.
Yeah. And the answer is, remember, I just got there about 3 years ago, so I'm not going to talk about gerrymandering at this point.
Okay. No, that is fine. We can talk about gerrymandering in another manner. What I guess what I'm trying to tell you is the following, right? Yeah. I think gerrymandering can actually screw the people who did it, right? Because, I mean, right now, they may just look and say, oh, white voters, we have 70% white voters and all the rest. We can kind of think about how these guys are going to vote. I live in Kingwood.
Okay.
All right. So
you're a neighbor.
I am your neighbor. I live in Kingwood, and Kingwood is probably demographically even more white than it is the Woodlands. But what we are starting to see in Kingwood is what I've always said, and that is whenever you start to see policy affecting not only one group, but it starts to bleed into other groups, suddenly we start to realize, we're kind of on the same team.
Yeah. And
in your, I would imagine in all the material that you're sending, and I'll ask you a little bit about your positions later, but I imagine in all the material, technically speaking, this show is supposed to be about voting, right?
Yes.
And how do we get people to vote?
Yes.
But now, I imagine in your positions, you're kind of coalescing towards not only positions that people would normally think are democratic positions, but actually democratic positions are generally people's positions, including many of those people who vote themselves Republican.
That is correct. And what I am asking people to do is not to look at me as a Democratic candidate, but rather as the candidate who's going to address issues and the challenges of our community. And that is why I am actually running on issues. And you will not hear me saying, well, I am the Democratic candidate. I'm the candidate that people can select and elect to represent them in Austin if they agree with me in terms of the issues that I wish to tackle, because those are issues that transcend any political party and that transcend any race or or gender, whatever else. Where I'm talking about public education, the importance of it. I'm talking about flooding, and you're in Kingwood, so
Yes,
you
I am.
understand that water does not discriminate.
Right.
When it says there I go, there it goes.
Right.
So that's one of the issues. The other one is also addressing uncompensated care and trying to do healthcare to take care of our people, because I'm sorry, illness is something also that does not discriminate. Rich and poor, we all get sick at one time or another.
Or non-immigrant.
Correct. Yes. So that's why I'm trying to focus on issues as opposed to party allegiances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we do have to talk party allegiances, but we'll do about that a little later. Let's go with you, Jesse. Jesse, when we talk about voting and getting the Latino vote, I told folks when we started the program, folks, if you have any questions as well, normally the phones will be lit up by now, but I think they see that we have a conversation going here. The telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738. Jesse, what we said is, we're talking specifically about the Latino votes and why Latinos don't vote, right? And one of the things, first of all, I want to hear your opinion, because I have a very distinct opinion, because I don't know. I hadn't only block walked into a Latino neighborhood, the barrios, but actually spoken to Latinos of all socioeconomic backgrounds. And what's interesting is the difference between the difference in thought process between Latinos in the different socioeconomic areas is quite stark. But I'm interested to know what's your thoughts on what is the current problem why Latinos don't vote. And then I am going to tell you some of the things that I think, and then we'll talk about what are solutions.
Well, in my opinion, I think that it's the Latinos aren't told that much what's going on. The majority of the Latinos that know what's going on is because they look for it, and a lot of the Latinos don't do that. When I was block walking, and I knocked on a door of a Latino, I would always start speaking in English. But then as soon as I started speaking in Spanish to them, boy, they had all kinds of questions.
Right.
They wanted to talk to me, and all the other people that block walk that speak in Spanish. And that's what we need to do the most, is let them know what's going on, because they really don't pay that much of attention to what the rest of the people are doing. So they just don't have the knowledge right now, or as much knowledge that they should have,
right,
in order to give them a perspective of what they need to vote for.
Now, I find that some additional to that, by the way, in block walking, I've seen that as well. In fact, in block walking, for me, because I'm not one of your standard Latinos, I'm one of the Black Latinos. So what happens when I get on to this place? You get on there, and the first thing that happens is that you get that cautionary look, and I break the cautionary look with a good bit of Spanish. And when I get a good bit of Spanish and all the because I don't know, you're Mexican descent. I don't know. I know you're Americano, pero
Mexican.
A lot of Mexicans apparently don't know you got some Black Latinos, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's, my brother, my Mexican, the funny thing is my brother-in-law is from Guanajuato, okay? So, but my sister's husband. But anyhow, but what I'm saying is this. So I'm just teasing about when I go out there and talk to the Latinos. But after we break the ice, what you said is true. Nobody's talking to them, and I blame a lot of that on our Latino leaders, because, and I'm going to throw this out there to every single one of my Latino brothers and sisters that are councilmen, councilwomen, and every type of politician out there. They assume the Latino vote is theirs, and they go fight for the white vote. That is generally the way that a lot of Latino people who are in Congress, that's how they fight, as opposed to saying, I fight for the people. In other words, I am going to the, I have this phrase that I use on my show all the time. When we win the barrios, the ghettos, and the Appalachia, You understand what that means, right? Barrios, Ghettos, and Appalachia, we would have won the war. Because that is when we've really started speaking to everybody. And what I find is, and the same thing happened with the black leaders in the black politicians. They assume the black vote is theirs. That's why now Trump got 15% of the black vote. And now, according to Rasmussen, he has 36% support in the black community. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
People don't understand people. People have to understand that you talk to people as people,
Right.
Irrespective of race, irrespective of ethnicity, irrespective of all these other issues, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to also, in my opinion, talk to Latinos, black folk, everybody, and go and earn their votes. And I don't think there are people out there trying to earn the Latino vote. They just want to tell the Latinos to come vote.
Yeah, you're correct in that part. In that, like I said, they don't give them enough information.
Right.
So they don't know who to vote for. And what they do is they just read the newspaper or whatever. And then they say, okay, well, this guy looks good. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's Republican, liberal, or whatever.
Right.
They're going to vote for that person.
Right.
Where you need to tell them why you should vote for them, kind of like she's saying, kind of like Lorena is saying.
Okay, well, before I go on with my old soliloquy and talk to you guys, let's see what the caller has to say. Caller, I'm coming to you. Line number 1, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one request and one question.
Oh, yes, sir.
My request is for our fellow KPFT listeners to please lupevaldez.com and vote, and contribute to her campaign.
Absolutely.
They're running a little short on monies, and they need monies for one of their sign purchasing campaigns that's going on right now.
And
you hear me?
We got you. Go ahead and tell me the other request or the question.
Okay, my question/comment is, considering how the Republicans are aiming for us to pay for infrastructure, they want us to borrow money from the banks, from their wealthy friends, and then pay them back with interest, rather than have us have a nationwide progressive tax code with no loopholes for the ultra-wealthy. So what's happening now is, because we have desperate need for infrastructure in Harris County, as well as in other parts of the United States, because of the recent Trump scandal tax break to the ultra-wealthy, we don't have any money in our nation's treasury or in state treasuries to fund these things. So instead of paying for this stuff outright, we're having to borrow from these same people we gave the money to that doesn't belong to them, and then pay it back with interest. So my question for the candidate is, how does she feel about the idea of a progressive universal tax code and universal health care, and not paying for infrastructure the way the Republicans plan for us to do it?
Thank you so kindly for your question, Johnny.
I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Johnny. Well, let's see. The first one is more of a federal question. So I cannot tell you from the standpoint of what for the position that I am a candidate for cannot comment much on the tax code. But in terms of universal health care, the way that I have been talking to my constituency is to my voters is, and in part it is because the District 15 has a little bit more people that are well off. Not everybody is, but there's a perception that everybody's well off. Is okay, we need to address uncompensated care. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is I am twisting it so that it actually touches upon people's concerns. If we need to pay for healthcare a little bit higher to the private hospitals that are in my district, and all of that is because the hospitals cannot deny care to anyone, including people who are underinsured or uninsured. And what are those private hospitals going to do? Well, in turn, they're going to raise their fees so that they can recover a little bit of what they have lost by attending to those people. So what I am telling my the people in House District 15, some of whom are Republicans, the ones that have historically voted, is, okay, let's not talk about universal health care. Let's not talk about Medicaid money. Let's leave that aside. Don't you think for a second that you want us to address uncompensated health care so that we do not end up paying a lot more money as a consequence. And that's the way that I am trying to gain traction and to get people to pay attention to us. But of course, healthcare is a very important issue because, as I said at the beginning, everybody gets sick at one point or another in their lives. But then again, you do understand that Texas decided to stay out, decided to leave the money on the table in terms of Medicaid, and that is an issue that I need to take into consideration for my platform.
Okay, let me. Well, phone's ringing, but put it on hold.
Good.
Yeah, but let me ask you this way. Do you believe Texas should take the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act?
Yes.
Okay, good. That will save the lives of over 2,000 Texans every year if that is placed into a thing. Now, I'm going to ask you the difficult question, especially for the district that you're in. Your stance on Medicare for all is?
There should be.
Okay. All right. That is a very that is an important question, and most people don't understand Medicare for all. Is if you stand for Medicare for all in the long run, meaning as soon as we can, but right now the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, Texans, whether they are Republican, whether they are Democrats, whether they're independents, whether they're anarchists, they need to know that, because I tell you something, you're not going to get Latinos to come out and vote for you. You're not going to get black folk to come out and vote for you. You're not going to get the average white folk to come out and vote for you because they're feeling the pain of, look, and I want to tell this to all candidates that are running right now. In October, you are getting some news, and that news is going to tell you how much your health care is going to cost. For the corporations that are I won't go into my speech about how we divide the country, but for corporations that are taking care of their people, they won't see that big change. But for everybody else in small corporations and in this, they're going to see a huge increase in their health care premiums effective October. I would suggest that all the politicians out there go ahead of the game and tell them, I am going to solve that because my opponent is of the party who actually screwed you. You can't say that, Lorena. You can't say that, but.
And I will not.
Yeah. But anyhow, let's go to line number, what's the next line I should take? Okay, take two. Let's go to line number 2.
Hello?
Yes, come on in, Matt.
Hey, our candidate, we need to ask just a couple questions.
Real quick, my friend, because we have some other calls. So go for it, my dear MOD.
Okay. How can we campaign so we don't have any of the racial lines that are being discussed, that it's really class warfare on the level that the racial betting or tensions that we see? For instance, you mentioned, Roberto, that the folks are voting that weren't voting are now voting for Trump.
Right.
So that goes across the concept of racial. He's all about whitey, whatever. But it looks like there's something else going on. I think it's class warfare.
Yeah.
How can our candidate approach, the constituents, at that angle, and also the obvious of the healthcare. Since 2005 or 6, 80+% of bankruptcy from accrued healthcare costs.
Right.
And you got a third of the exchanges across the nation of ANDA, United Healthcare, pulled out.
Yeah.
So the kitty pot is shrunk to nil, and that's why his prices are being jacked up.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'll let your candidate.
Thank you so kindly, MOD. I'll let the candidate answer.
Sure. Thank you. On racial tensions and the class warfare, well, that's a tough one. And that is why what I have tried to do during my campaign is focus my platform on issues. And usually the issues that I am talking about are issues that are blind to either to your financial situation and also to what ethnicity you belong to or you classify yourself as. And that's why you will see, you know, it's healthcare, and we need to deal with the issue of healthcare and what we're going to do for the people who are underinsured or uninsured, particularly in the district where all our hospitals are private hospitals. Mind you, yes, some of them are nonprofit, but they are private hospitals, and they are trying to recover some of the money that they have actually had to forfeit by offering services that they cannot deny to people who come in, usually through the most expensive door, which is the emergency entrance at their hospitals. And it's also flooding. Flooding does not discriminate in terms of whether you live in a beautiful mansion or you live in a one floor. And the other one is public education, where the way that I see that Texas is going is the way of school choice. And to me, school choice is, you know, if I have a little bit extra money and I decide that I want to put my kids in private schools, because that's my choice. But there shouldn't be a choice between a good school that I have to pay for or a bad school that my kids are going to be stuck with.
So you're not into vouchers and that sort of thing?
No, sir.
Excellent. Well, let me just, kind of pen to that and something, because you mentioned something that you hear me talk about all the time, and that has to do with how do we get race out of it. First of all, we could never get race out of it specifically, because of, you have Trump, you have all these other guys. My concept, again, when we unite folk, the barrios, the ghettos, and the Appalachia, which means, and what Lorena says is so, actually it's very important. When she mentions that, you talk issues, when you talk issues, you normally see that these issues supersede race. Whenever folks are using race, they're trying to distract you from the issues, right? Think about how many white people are being bankrupted who will go and say they don't support the Affordable Care Medicaid expansion, who would have benefited from that, but they're too worried that they're thinking from a racial perspective. So, MOD, you are right in saying it is class warfare. That is exactly what it is. And once you can stick to the issues and show that all of you share in these same issues, then we can move forward. And hopefully with the amount of candidates that you have out there that are stressing that, we can see it. As long as these candidates make sure to realize that Americans, when asked what the things that they want, generally turned out to be progressive. Let's go to line number one. Line number one. Yes, sir.
Hello, with me?
Yes, that's you.
Hey, this is the Sandman in Galveston.
Hey, yes, sir.
Your candidate's speaking quite intelligently. But,
well, thank you.
61, you're Mr. ma'am. 61-year-old, okay? And I know something you said a while ago that I've seen throughout my life. I don't feel like you give your race the credit of intelligence when, like you said, my constituency, and you go, oh, my voters. And I've seen this continuously times. Like, these, your people know who they are. All races know what a constituency is. They know that they're voters.
Thank you.
But I think this is a downfall, and this is a calling show, and I see this a lot through the years in all races, political races, I mean. Folks trying to, talk to their constituency. If you feel like you have to get down and say, oh, that means that you vote for me, there's something wrong there, I believe. And I'll hang back and take a fallout.
Thank you so kindly, my friend. You have a wonderful day, okay?
And y'all as well. Enjoy the program.
Thank you.
It is such a shame that you are not part of my constituency, but thank you for your comment.
So, she wants you as a constituency, buddy. So, go move to District 15. Anyhow, let's take line 2. Thank you. Come on in, line 2. You're on.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, I guess my question?
Yes.
Oh, if the candidate would be willing to call for impeachment of Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton.
That's an interesting.
Just for the policies against people of color, and then also the trans community and whatnot.
I have not thought of that, but now
And
you.
also Hurricane Harvey, like if late people have died and people are still suffering because he wanted go jump into the rainy day fund.
I will tell you this. It was really upsetting to see that even though we called for a special session to talk about bathroom bills, we have not seen a special session either to address, Harvey, or to address the issue of school safety. That I will tell you. And it upsets me very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so kindly for the call, my friend. That was interesting with regards to impeachment. I do a lot of national politics. Do we impeach in Texas? I don't quite. I don't even know I'll be honest with you. I don't.
I read the Texas Constitution and I didn't see anything.
Okay, I was just wondering because the caller had an interesting question. I'm like, it's interesting because I know all the bad things that Abbott and all these guys have done, and I don't think you can find any radio show that I've ever done when I said impeach one of these state reps or anything because somehow it didn't hit my psyche. Caller, that's what I tell you. You guys make us so much smarter because now you're going to make me go do some research.
I'm going to have to reread it again.
Yeah, because
I just don't remember.
We have great listeners. I'm going to have to go home and figure that out now. I hate not knowing that. I hate not knowing that. But hey, anyhow, so we only have about 7 minutes left. So what we're going to do now, since is ask Jesse. I said, what needs to be done, Jesse, for us to ensure that we get the Latino vote out? I want to know what you're pretty active. You're out there. What are you going to do, and what are you going to command others to do so that we kind of break this cycle?
Well, what we're doing is, and it's not just me, it's a whole bunch of people doing that. The first thing that we're doing is we're identifying all the people that we can go and knock on their door, starting now.
Right.
Of course, we started doing that a while back, but we're doing it again because there's a lot of times where people just don't answer the phone, or their door, because they're afraid. Because I used to knock on doors and they just didn't want to talk to me.
Exactly.
But we try again. So, and then we have phone calls as well. One thing I learned is that I never leave a voicemail when I'm calling to talk to somebody that I want to vote for me.
Oh, really?
I never leave a voicemail.
Okay.
I always, if they don't answer, I just put down that they didn't answer and I'll call them back until they answer.
Okay.
Because when you leave a voicemail, you assume that they're going to hear it.
Right.
Or that they're going to care.
Right.
They probably just hang up.
Right.
So that's why I never leave a voicemail. And then we have a lot of things going on as far as vote by mail. Of course, that involves all the seniors.
Right.
But I'm sure that there's a whole slew of Latino seniors that can vote by mail. So we have a lot of that going on, and we're hoping that that helps. But we need a lot of door knockers and a lot of phone callers and things like that. So where I live, I'm in Senate District 7. That's what we're doing.
So you're actually doing more block walking than you normally have done and knocking more doors than you normally had?
Yes.
Okay, I think that is important. Now, my next question to you is, are you advising the politicians, however, to engage the community more so than they normally would? Because I am honest when I say that, and I'm saying this about all the ethnic politicians. One of the reasons that I'm not, and some folks, I'll hear about this, but set-aside districts, I am no longer for set-aside districts. And the reason why is I think it creates a class of politicians who pretty much ignore their constituents.
Yep. Yeah. Whenever I get a chance to talk to a candidate,
right,
I always tell them, this is what they do, this is what I recommend, and things like that. Whether they take it or not,
right,
it's up to them. But I kind of answer them with, or tell them what I just told you about what I used to do and what I still do. So hopefully that will help.
Let me take this call real quickly. Line number 1, you're on. Line number 1, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Cheryl.
I just wanted to respond to something the man just said.
Yes, go ahead.
I will actually change my mind and not vote for a candidate if I figure out they're calling over and over and not bothering to respect me enough to leave a message. It's my decision whether to answer my phone. I can choose to call back and even give you more support. But if I bother to set up my voicemail and say, please leave a message, and you choose to demand that I answer the phone before you speak to me, I think it's incredibly disrespectful and harassing. So I don't think that's good advice to give anyone. It's almost like you don't think you're worthy of leaving a message, is the way that I have always perceived it.
You know, what is interesting is when Jesse was saying that, I listened to what Jesse had to say, and I was actually thinking, wow, I understand where you're coming from. You're actually showing interest for the person that you're calling to, that you really want to talk to them. But now that you're calling in and you're saying, well, you think it's disrespectful, that is why we have communication, right? And that's why we have shows like this, because now both of us can see how people look at the same thing and see a different perspective.
Right. Because I'm
because he was saying that,
and I'm not a slave to my phone. Like
right. But what I'm saying is, he was saying that from a perspective of respect to you, and you didn't see that.
Leave that in the message.
Right.
I really would like to connect with you.
Right.
I'll be calling you back again.
Right. Well, I mean,
and do both.
Yeah. So, well, look, it's really good to hear different points of view, because that, and we have a politician sitting in between us. She can get a chance to see what has the, how people's, people think differently on different issues. So thank you so kindly for calling.
Can I just add one more piece?
Of course.
Because what it speaks to is, do you believe that I have good analytical thought?
Right.
That I will know that I want to call you back, that I want to speak with you, that next time I see that number come up, now that you've left a message and I know who it is, I will pick it up.
Right. Well, again, I thank you for the call. I think it's an important call, ma'am. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you for the input.
Sure.
Absolutely. Now let's go line number 2. Go ahead. Come on in. Yes, sir. Real quickly. We are kind of running out of time.
I don't know if this is Cynthia.
Yes, Cynthia.
Okay. I'm doing a paper on the suffragettes, and so I ran across Texas Governor Ferguson was impeached and removed in 1917.
Right.
There you go.
So I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you so kindly.
We're looking for impeachment.
You are wonderful for giving us. I appreciate that.
Don't need to. Okay, thank you.
We got to go. Thank you. Okay, last call. Yes, ma'am. Line number 1. Real quick, 15 seconds, or I'm going to have to hang up.
Hello?
Yes, come on, real quick, sir.
Hi. Yeah, I was just going to make a commentary on
real quick, make your comment.
Hispanic voters,
yes.
Mexican voters in Texas, and trying to get them to go blue. What I notice is that demographic tends to vote Republican, and I think that kind of transfers over from the North Mexican kind of mindset that is mostly small farming economy, low taxes, not big government oversight, but also more traditionalist in the family sense, and also deeply religious. And I think that's how the Republicans are trying to garner those voters.
Thank you.
That come from that.
Got to go. Thank you so kindly, my friend. I got to go. We're right on time. Hey, look, first of all, Jesse Ybanez, thank you so kindly for having been on the show. Lorena Perez McGill, thank you so kindly for a show. Give us a quick 15-second closer.
Yes. In terms of Montgomery County, what I have seen is that Hispanics seem to be afraid to rock the boat. This is not the time to do it. Inaction is actually not the right choice right now. So we need to come on and vote if we want to be taken into account. And that goes for everyone, not just the Hispanic community.
All the community that goes for. Folks, this is Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, and you know how I close these shows out. And it goes like this. I am out. Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.